Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry that this lesson is just a little bit late coming to you. I have no internet at my house right now. I'm trying to get it uploaded and all that stuff. So today, you're not going to have a set assignment for this lesson. It'll just be me talking and me sort of talking you through things. I was going to do a separate lesson with grammar and things like that, but I'll save that for the next time. Um, so basically, we're just going to do a quick talk about your body paragraphs for your this, I believe, essay. I'm going to walk you through a couple things that I'm going to show you. I'll give you my example so you can see what I've done with mine. My conclusion is not in my mentor text right now, the text that I've wrote for you guys. But I will be working on that and I will show that to you on Monday or tomorrow or next lesson, I guess, basically, I should say. So I want to talk to you guys about planning. I want to talk to you guys about making sure that you sort of have everything you want to have in your essay, because sometimes you forget things. And so when you plan things out, you don't have to spend so much time going back and looking back at things and things like that. And while I'm looking through this and kind of talking about this, I just want to make sure I let you know. So I am going to look at your essays that you've submitted to me. I know I have not done it yet, but I will get them looked at today and I will give you feedback. And try to get that information back to you as soon as possible. So I'm sharing my screen on a separate thing, so that way I can write and show you all just basically like things that I would do. So the last time we talked about what your rubric has for you here, and as I was writing my mentor text, I noticed that everything sort of came down to me being able to explain each aspect of the story. So obviously you have your introduction, right? And you should already have that done and that's already ready to go. You're good to go. I want to point out a couple of things to you. So we're going to talk about formatting it with my paper, and I'll show you my paper in just a minute, but I do want to go through this first. But you do want to do MLA format. It's really simple, but if you've not ever heard it before, let me get closer here. If you've not ever heard it before, it is 12 size font. And you're going to hear me say this a lot. Times New Roman. And it has to be double space. Why do we do this? First and foremost, it's just kind of a something that gives everybody like the same thing, like uniform look. It's difficult to read some fonts, and so Times New Roman is pretty straightforward and it's pretty easy to read, things like that. Also, you cannot tell me that if I told you you had to write 2 pages and I told you you could have any size font that you wouldn't just do 72 font and write 2 words. So somebody planned ahead at some point there thinking about students. So you do have to double space though, and so that helped you out a lot. And also the double spacing and the Times New Roman 12 size font is actually the equivalent of a handwritten. Like the same amount of pages should be about the equivalent. So if you handwrite a page, if you type it and double space it in Times New Roman 12 size font, it should be the same. Like you should still have about a page as long as you don't write huge. Something really important to have. So on the assignment, there's a couple of questions that ask. So it says to think about what happened. So what's the basic story? And I know I've gone through this before, but I just want to kind of go back through it. Who was involved? So who, and then you might want to put some quotes in there somewhere. And the quotes will really kind of carry some things. You want the quotes to not be like the whole story. You want the quotes to just have some sort of motivation. Like the quote should progress your story somehow. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. So they should progress your story. Let's see, who, when is really important. You don't have to directly say like, you don't have to just take these questions and then answer them. I want you to actually like tell the story. But when you're thinking about telling the story, you want to think about all these different aspects. So when, where, and why. All right, so that's your typical storytelling setup is the who, what, when, where, why. Normally there's a how, but you don't really need a how in this one. How really comes in that last paragraph, which we're not really ready for yet. So when I was planning through this, what I did was I just jotted down some basic ideas. And so for my paper, I wrote, gave kids shoes. I wrote that it was manager me, other kid. You guys probably can't see that hardly at all. When is sometime in 2006. I was 17. And if you can't remember the exact time, I mean, your age also matters. And so you could say, I was 17 and that's why, fit so well with this, or I was 6 or whatever. Where Wendy's, and you can get specific and you'll see that I did in mine. And then why kid was constantly late. Literally always. And then I was a team leader, crew leader, whatever. And so I had to wait for him to come in before I could leave. So some things that I also would suggest. So when you're thinking about each of these things, the example that it gives you, it says a bad example is it was a hot day, and a good example is I felt sweat, dripping down my back, and the car felt like an oven. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about some things that I could use that I need to describe. And so I know for sure, I told you guys this story, but I want to for sure use the potato through the window story. It's in my mentor text, you'll read it. Potato through the window. And then I know for sure that I want to talk about having difficult days, because that's a lot of what caused me to be so ready to go home. I'm going to definitely mention, I wanted to mention that not everybody was difficult. I was around. Not everyone was difficult, because there was a lady, and it may not be relevant at all, but it just was really nice. But it sort of ties in, and you'll shut up. You'll see what I'm talking about. So everyone was difficult, but there were quite a few memorable ones. Let's see. And then definitely need to talk about leadership role, and that's why I had to leave. That's why I couldn't leave. I did get a slight raise. Don't get too excited. It wasn't much. I have to think of that kid's name. I'm going to call him Joe in my paper. That just seems like a good generic name. Let's see. My manager's name was Brandy. We're still friends. So I want to make sure I include her in there somewhere. Let's see. Probably want to talk about the fact that I was still in school somehow and playing basketball. And so I was already exhausted regardless. And so I want to make sure I include that in there. So these things here help to sort of build my story, right? All of these things are not foundational, but they are sort of like extra details for the foundational stuff that I'm doing with the paper. I have to have these things here to make this stuff here more interesting. This stuff here is boring if I don't add in these details. So when you're writing, you want to think about, I'm telling a story that I want my friends to hear and either laugh at or feel something. And so you want to think about telling it like you're telling your friends. And if you're not doing that, you're going to miss out on some of these really important things here. You're going to miss out on these little tiny details, because if you're talking about going through something, talk about what you went through, talk about what happened and why it happened the way it did. Use your personality. If you have a funny personality, put humor in there. It's totally okay. If you are a more serious person, then be more serious. Tell your story and be straightforward with it. Say what happened, but make sure that you're not shortchanging yourself on it. Make sure that you're not cutting yourself short, essentially. Okay. So, I'm going to draw the line here, and this is what I'm working on today. So you are not going to, like I said, have a set assignment, but you're going to have your intro and your body paragraph. You want to have that done so that I can give you some feedback. So let's look really quickly at my paper, and I'll stop sharing my other screen here and leave the meet, so that way there's not 27 people in here. Okay. So let's look at my screen on my other computer. And I'll show you my mentor text and sort of what I've been doing with mine. I haven't done the conclusion yet, but I've got the rest of it ready to go for you all. So should come up here you all should see, and I'll post this for you as well on Classroom. But you should see my paper. And so I want to point out a couple of things to you, just so that you know what I'm looking for. So when you format your name, class period, and the date goes up here in the top left-hand corner, okay? Your title, you have to have a title. Anything that you write ever should have a title, unless I say explicitly, oh, well, it's just a paragraph, you don't have a title. But if you're writing a paper for me, I always want a title. And the more creative you can be, the better. Who doesn't like a funny title, right? Or an interesting title? And so you can see my introduction here, and you can look at it on, let's see, was it last Monday? I think it was, or maybe Thursday. I did a video, I think it was Thursday. I did a video with my introduction, and we looked at it and we edited it together. And so I think it's really important for you guys to see my process as well as doing your own. And so you can look and see, you can go back to that if you want to, and look at what I originally had and how I sort of edited things and made it a little bit better for this introduction. And I'm hopefully going to be able to give you guys some feedback as well on your paper. So that way it's, you have something that you can work with. So I'm just going to look here. I'm not going to read my paper to you, but I do want to show you this is 12 size font, Times New Roman, double space. So Times New Roman here, 12 size font here. And then to change your spacing, you're going to go to these little double arrows, click here, and you're going to click on double. Okay, this actually wasn't on double spacing, it was on 1.5. So it actually is a little bit longer. So that being said, there it goes. So I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but there's different things I talked about with, the lady who always came in and wasn't difficult. But how sometimes it wasn't just the customers that came in, but it was also the people that you worked with. And so talking about leadership position, there it is. There's the kid's name. Don't remember him very much. What position I was working that he had to come in and relieve me from. So I was always working in the drive-through, and so he had to come in after me and take over. And so I have my short quotes here, right? And so I have my manager talking to him, and then I have him talking, and then me sort of internally talking, and then I gave him my shoes and I left. And then before anybody had any time to say anything, I clocked out, grabbed my stuff, and proceeded to drive my Smurf blue 1999 Nissan Sentra home while barefoot. So the more details that you give, the better your paper is going to be, essentially. Now, you don't want to give details that don't really further your story, because then you're just throwing things in there. But if you can include things in there that really add to either the humor of the story or the ridiculousness of the story or the intensity of the story, throw those in there, because they're really useful in writing. And more than ever now, I think it's important for you guys to learn how to sort of tell these stories and share these things with each other in a way that is engaging, that is intriguing. So, we've read a ton of them and all that good stuff, and I'm so glad that we had time to read those together. And hopefully, in a couple of weeks, we'll be back together and we'll figure it out. And so basically for this lesson, Thursday's lesson, well, this lesson, next lesson, and then next week's beginning of the week lesson, you'll be working on your paper, and then we'll start something new next second half of the week. Yes, we will still be on the same schedule. And so first through fourth Monday, 5th through 8th on Tuesday, Wednesday still a break day where if you have questions, you work whatever it is, and then Thursday is 1st through 4th, Fridays 5th through 8th. But now that we're all virtual, it won't matter if you're split up or not. You're still going to have to do the lives or whatever it might be. I'm not going to have lives for you guys. I'm just going to post the video because I know that a lot of you guys are working and you may be taking care of younger siblings and things like that. I'm not going to ask you to sit in front of a computer and try to do all this stuff, especially because most of these don't ever last longer than 15, 20 minutes anyway. But if you do have questions, please email me, please text me. I texted you guys last night on Remind. My internet is out at my house right now, and hopefully it'll be fixed today. But if you do respond to me and I don't get back to you very quickly, it's because I have no service. Because if I don't have internet at my house, I have no outside communication. And yes, it's just as terrible as it sounds. So do the connection for the day. And that's really your only thing other than working on your paper. And I will give you feedback on your paper as soon as I can, and try to give you guys some tips on those things. I plan on doing this weekend, but then I didn't have internet yesterday all day. I woke up without it. And so really didn't have a lot of time to sit down and do that. I was spending most of the day trying to figure out what was going on and things like that. And it's hard to do on a Sunday. It's just sometimes how life works, unfortunately. So I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna let you guys go on with your papers. Make sure you get your connection done. It's really straightforward, but it's not too bad. I'm going to attach the assignment again. I'm going to attach the text that I wrote. But you can go through and read it if you want to. And so if you need some help with how to say things or what to do with things, you can look at mine and maybe give yourself some ideas. So I'm going to stop, and I will see you back here later this week for the next lesson. Have a good day, guys.